Exercise number 20. Get ready to write. Start. I am very glad to be broadcasting today the birthday of my dear brother Jawaharlal. The day is twice blessed. Not only are we celebrating a great national event, but we are also welcoming him back with all our heart after an eventful tour abroad. Our birthday gift to him is loyalty and devotion. He has returned it with compound interest by raising our country's status abroad and by presenting a sum total of goodwill and friendship which he has engendered wherever he has gone during his tour. He returns today again to resume the heavy burden of responsibilities which attach to his high office. Let us offer him our felicitations as well as our prayers. How heavy that burden is and how great those responsibilities, you must have guessed in some measures from the speech I delivered about our economic situation. I wish once again to emphasize the gravity of the situation that faces us and of the immensity of the task that lies ahead if we are to stage a quick and permanent recovery. I can tell you quite frankly that the time for preparing paper schemes has gone. We cannot indulge any longer in the pastime of conjuring before our vision idealistic utopias. We have to live among the hard facts of today, and it is in that realistic atmosphere that we have to think and act. It is no use our offering to a hungry man a rich fare some time hence. I have been constantly laying stress on the need of self-sufficiency in food and clothes, our basic wants. We have spent crores on our food production drive without making any appreciable difference to our heavy imports, the crushing burden of which is visible in our dwindling foreign currencies and balances. We have in hand so many schemes of irrigation. We have a huge area of cultivable waste which is waiting for the hands that can plough. Even the areas under cultivation can, with diligence and well directed efforts, be made to yield more. We have a big reclamation program which is being financed from the money that we have borrowed from abroad. In addition, we have programs in India for subsidizing schemes of food production. If we can concentrate on all these, I have no doubt that in spite of the economic situation of today, we can produce enough to feed ourselves in future. Just think of it. If we had at our disposal the amount which we have spent on food imports during the last 3 years, we could have completely rehabilitated those unfortunate brothers and sisters of our who have had to leave their herds and homes in Pakistan and who are still looking up for us for relief and succor. My heart bleeds to see so many of my unfortunate countrymen living in conditions of filth and poverty. Let those who pass by them reflect for a moment how they themselves are contributing to their misery by failing in their duty to help themselves and help us in ensuring self-sufficiency in food. We always speak of India's culture, civilization, but do we ever pursue to think that the relief of the poor, mutual aid amongst neighbors, charity to the helpless, and kindness to the downtrodden have been the shining virtues of that culture and civilization? Let us ask ourselves if we are living in the spirit of those ancient virtues. We are honest, we shall point the fingers of scorn at all of us who demand their pound of flesh for every shear of corn that they hand over to government or who store up their corn even though they see their next door neighbor starving. The same applies to those who do not work assiduously to produce more from every rich of their soil or who not only allow land to go waste but also allow food grains to deteriorate. Are we to take Gandhiji's name only when it suits our purpose? I should like to ask all those who swear by him how they reconcile their professions of faith in his mission with the everyday breach of the principles which he taught. My appeal to the agriculturist is to work and work hard with a will to get the best hour of their exertion and deliver to government the maximum they can spare on the basis of their minimum requirements. They should help government to implement the many programs of increasing food production so that we can restore the balance between supply and demand of food grains as quickly as possible. Whatever area can be brought under cultivation must be utilized to produce food grains. My next appeal is to the industrialist, businessmen, traders, and labor. I need not stress here the importance which increasing production has in our plans to deal with the present economic crisis. In many ways, it is our one and only hope to correct the maladjustment between supply and demand and thereby reverse the rising spiral of prices. Government, industry, and labor must take national service. Stop.